facilitator for BUS818, and that is rewards and compensation management. And for today's lesson, which is lesson 2, we are going to be talking about the nature and concept of total rewards. Okay, the topics to be covered in lesson 2, we are going to be talking about firstly the nature of total rewards, the context of total rewards, and lastly the reasons and principles of total reward. Lesson objectives on lesson 2. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the nature of total rewards, and you should be able to describe the context of total reward, and lastly you should be able to discuss the reasons and principles of reward, also the relational reward system. So we move on to the context of total reward, and for the context of total reward, we are going to be talking about the internal environment and also the external environment. So the internal and external environment of every organization actually affects the reward system. So this is what we are going to be talking about right now. So under the internal environment, reward policy and practice will be affected by the characteristics of the organization with regards to its purpose, products and services, processes, sectors, either it's a public sector or a private sector. And basically this internal environment actually would affect the reward system. Do you understand? So indirectly, if it's going to affect the internal environment, it's going to affect the reward system. It can affect their products, it can affect the processes in which things are being done, and it can also affect the purpose of the organization. So these factors or factors that influence the internal environment, the first one we have here is the culture of the organization. Every culture of an organization can actually have a significant impact on the reward management system. That's just the plain truth. Every organization culture can affect the reward system of an organization. Either it can affect it positively or negatively. A positive culture can work for an organization by creating an enabling environment to performance improvement. So this is actually a positive culture. So if the organization actually accepts a positive culture whereby it's conducive for the employees to work in, it's a positive culture, and this can actually influence the reward system. This can actually influence the morale of the employees to do what they need to do in that organization. And that positive culture can trigger rewards indirectly. It might not be in form of monetary rewards, but it can be in form of indirect rewards. For instance, if there's transparency, if there's equity and all these things, the reward system is not biased, the reward system is not actually favoring some people, which is biased, and so these things would actually affect the culture of the organization. Then the business of the organization also can actually affect the internal environment. Do you understand? The internal environment of the reward system, it depends on the kind of business that is being done. Manufacturing business, for instance, now if maybe the organization is into manufacturing business, it can influence the type of people it employs and the degrees to which it's subject to turbulence and change. All these factors will contribute to the reward strategy. For instance, in the public and voluntary sector, the paying of service-related increments rather than processing pay according to performance or contribution dies hard, although successive governments have driven the adoption of performance pay in the civil service. So basically, it depends on the business. For instance, now if you are working in the public sector, the reward system is actually kind of, it's how will I put it, it's very transparent, because for instance, let me just try as much as possible. Maybe if you work in NNPC, you can see that the reward system, if you have somebody or know somebody that works there, you can see that the reward system is actually transparent in a way. If you and most times it's done according to seniority. Maybe you are in so and so level, your reward will be given to you according to your levels and the rest of it. But if you work in some public organizations, for instance in the banking industry, you will find out that most of the time, even a younger person can earn more than a senior person, depending on what that person brings into the organization. So the business of this organization depends on the kind of reward that will be given to individual. Another one we have here is technology, and I'm sure you'll be wondering why technology. Technology of a business exerts a major influence on the internal reward. Technology is something that changes day in, day out. The phone that we use today might not be what we'll be using tomorrow. So this is how rapid technology is going. Do you understand? So technology can actually influence the internal environment, and the introduction of new technology may result in considerable changes to system and processes. Different skills are required, new methods of working, and therefore rewards are developed. So this is how technology actually contributes into the internal environment of the reward system. Lastly, we also have the views of workers in the organization. Yes, workers in the organization actually affect the internal environment of the reward, of the reward system. Reward management policies should take into account the aspiration, expectation, and needs of employees as stakeholders in the organization. Consideration has also to be given to the needs or views of other stakeholders, especially owners in the perspective. So basically what they are trying to say is that employees' involvement is very crucial to the development of reward system and programs. The wishes of employees needs to be ascertained. So you cannot just develop a kind of reward system without some of the employees knowing about it, because their perception on things like that, they know what they want. So when they are involved in things like this, if their views are being considered, obviously the internal environment reward system would actually have a positive effect on that particular organization. So we move on to the external environment, and the external environment is actually shaped by globalization, increased competition, government interventions of different organizations that will actually influence the reward policies and practices. So basically the external environment can be seen from the following. So for the external environment, we are going to be talking about globalization, and globalization actually entails organization moving people, ideas, products, and information around the world to meet local needs. Yes, that's what globalization is. Everything is global now, you understand? So basically traditional discussions of international reward strategies and practices have tended to focus on an elite of expatriate workers. So basically globalization now, it's where things are being done globally. Do you understand? For instance, you might have one of the corporations, like for instance multinational companies. Let's use the aspect of maybe KPMG. We know KPMG is actually worldwide, and the reward system, for instance, if they have expatriates in Nigeria, obviously they will be being paid in the depending on the currency, they can be paid in the local currency, or or like the international currency. It just depends on, what the organization actually tends to do in that aspect. And another one we'll be talking about is employment records. So employment record is an increasing demand of skills and qualification in taking place, especially for managerial and professional workers, knowledge workers, customer service, technical and office staff. So basically this employment record, it actually influences, the reward strategy designed to attract and retain people. Because for instance, now if you want the skilled of the skilled kind of people, your employment record, for instance, people will Google, some certain things, what's the pay of so and so organization and the rest of it, to see, the records and all that stuff. So basically, and it also attracts, skilled and qualified applicants into their organization. So when when these things are properly done, or research done, and people find out that, okay, this company does this, you will have highly technical people, because of basically the reward system that is being done in that environment. Then we have also pay rates in marketplace. The external environment exerts a major influence on pay rates of pay and pay reviews within organization. Market or ongoing rate levels and movements have to be taken into account by organization. So basically, pay rate in the marketplace, it's another external factor, or another is actually another one that actually influences the external environment. Because for instance, now to get the best of the employees, you would need to search into the market and see what your competitors are actually paying, so that you can either double up or bring something, a reward system that is very attractive, or a benefit that is very attractive, that can actually lure the best of the best of minds into your organization. Then we also have, lastly, demographic trends. And then basically, one of the most important factors that reward and HR strategy have to address for the future is demographic change. So basically, birth rates throughout the developed world have actually been falling in recent decades. So basically, this is something that we've observed. People now, young ones, are not giving birth as much as they used to. Like for instance, in our days, where our parents would give birth to like 7, 8, 9, even a football team. You understand? But now couples, everybody's like, oh, I just need 2 or 3, and they are okay. So the demographic trends, actually affect the reward system, the external reward system, in the sense that it has been paralleled by declining mortality rates and increasing longevity. Just as traditional labor pools are shrinking, traditional reward practices and mindsets have been further reducing unemployment. So with early retirement through defined benefit pension. So these are things that are really happening now. A lot of organizations now, you see early retirement. Somebody is not up to 60, they bring up a memo to state that, this set of people have to retire, because the trend has actually seen that a lot of younger generations are finishing school on time. You find graduates finishing like 19, 21, and they need to be fitted into the career world. Do you understand? So basically, this demographic change or trends would actually see where organizations can cut people and bring more people, and and the rest of it. And we move on to the reasons and principles for strategic reward. And basically, the reasons for strategic reward, we have 4 arguments, for adopting a strategic approach to reward management. So firstly, you must have some idea where you are going, or how do you know how to get there, and how do you know that you have arrived. So basically, for every reward strategic reward system. Basically, you will need to know, you must have an idea of how you want that reward to look like, or how you want it to be, and you should know how to get there. Basically, how do you implement that reward? Okay, you have the idea now. How do you implement it, to fit into the organization? And how do you know that you have arrived? Do you understand? How do you know that that reward has actually been put into place where people are actually feeling that impact? So, these are one of, the strategic approach, that has been analyzed under the reward management system. The second one we'll be talking about is the real benefits in reward strategy, which lies in complex linkages with other human resource management policies and practices. So the real benefits in reward should also be linked to other human resource management policies. Do you understand? So when we are talking about other human resource management policies, we are talking about performance management, career development, training and development, and the rest of it. So it has to be linked, with these sets of, human resource management policies and practices, so that at the end of the day, you are looking inwards to see, okay, can we, reward our employees with their career development, send them on trainings, can we give them trainings, to enhance their skills, so that, they can align their goals and that with the organizational goals. So basically, those are the approaches, for adopting a strategic reward system. Another one we'll have here is there can be a positive relationship between rewards in the broader sense and performance. Yes, performance is actually linked to rewards. If one is performing on the job, therefore the person needs to be rewarded. It can actually be monetary or not monetary reward, just depends on the organization. And the last one we have here is pay costs in most organizations are by far the largest item of expense, and they can be 60% and often more in a labor-intensive organization. So pay cost, yes, every organization spends so much on pay, for their employees, because these are the things that people fall back on every month. So yes, these are kinds of, it's a reward system for every month, for every work you've done monthly. Yes, you should be rewarded with your pay system, rather you should be rewarded with pay. So we move on to the principles of strategic rewards, and we say we have them guiding principles, that should influence the reward system. And here we said fairness, equity, consistency, and transparency, are one of those guiding principles. But even aside that, we have other following principles of strategic rewards. And the first one is align reward strategy with the business and HR strategy. Yes, the HR team cannot be left aside, and the organization, so the business cannot be left aside. So all these have to come into place, to align their strategies with that of the business and the HR thing. Another one we have here is value employees according to their competence and contribution. Yes, there are some organizations that just value everybody. It's not like, some, they don't want to be partial, or they don't want to feel like, oh, other people. No, I think that it will motivate others to want to do. So if you have a particular employee, or you have employees, that are doing well, in their job, you should always recognize them, both monetary or non-monetary value, so that it can also motivate others, to do better in the organization. Another principle we have here is reward people according to what the organization values and it's prepared to pay for. Yes, if for instance in an organization you cannot give what you don't have, you should be able to give what you have. You cannot promise an employee to say, oh, because you've done this, we are going to take you to a trip to Dubai, all expense paid, and at the end of the day, 1 year, 2 years, the employee has not seen anything. How do you expect that employee to feel? Obviously, his morale is going to drop. He would not trust the organization any longer. He would feel, oh, they just brought up something, at the end of the day, they are not encouraging, and the rest of it. So basically, you offer what you have. As little as it is, I'm sure the employee would appreciate it. Lastly, we move on to ensure that reward processes are transparent and that staff are treated as stakeholders. Yes, the reward system has to be transparent. You don't need to, make it enclosed, whereby people will not know how you picked the best, of the employees, when and it's so glaring that this person, works day in and day out. So, those policies, should be stated clearly, so that in case somebody wins, they know that, oh, this person deems fit, to emerge, the best employee, of the month or something like that. So you should treat your employees as stakeholders also, and not treat them, otherwise. So the summary of lesson 2, sorry, this is lesson 2, pardon me. So basically you have learnt in this lesson the nature of total rewards, the concept of total rewards, and lastly the reasons and principles of total rewards. So just if you have any question, you can email me, temi@rima@yahoo.com. I still remain your humble facilitator, Temi Olajide Arishe. Bye for now, and see you at the top.